Hello, I'm Bernadette Brady from the University of Wales, Trinity St David, and I'm talking to you about the module Heavenly Discourses. Now, this module is a part of the MACAA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology that we teach online here. And it's a sister module, so to speak. It's in the same pathway as Astral Religions. And the distinction here is that Astral Religions is a non-secular consideration of the sky. But this module, Heavenly Discourses, is very much a secular look at the sky. We'll be considering the sky in many different ways and looking at just the implications of the impact that the sky has had on culture. There are 8 topics to the module, but each topic, of course, is almost like an umbrella that embraces a very large number of other themes, and you can actually, we'll talk to you about each theme or the major themes within a topic, but of course in your own research work and in your own assignments you can actually choose little sub-themes within there if you wish to. The first week, and I've got the Moodle page open here, the first week, as we scroll down, and I'll come back to the top shortly, but the first week is looking at the sky in culture, the implications of the sky in culture. Culture, there is a sense of sky as contested space, or rather who owns the sky and who talks to the sky or talks for the sky in culture. And there's different views here. Some groups will see the sky as ensouled and filled with meaning. Other groups will see it just as a blank space that anything can be done to, and so it doesn't matter if it's full of light pollution. A third use of the sky is for colonizing through astronomy and deep space activity. And another use of the sky is it falling to Earth and landing in popular culture. So we get things like Mars bars and Milky Way bars, and using the sky names in candy bars and films and theatres, and calling stars and galaxies and Aquarius shipping lines and Gemini sat-navs and that type of use of the sky. So the first week is just generally looking at that, and also talking to you about how we see the sky is very much through our cultural software, how we actually view it, and we'll be looking at that. The second week here is dealing with the mapping of the sky, the constellations like on this or on this big sphere here. Oops, it's going to fall off. You know, we get this type of thing, the mapping of the sky, the constellation names, how they came to be, but not so much a journey into history, but rather just looking at the origins of the Western constellations, but also looking at other ways of seeing the sky, how some cultures look at the dark places in the sky rather than the bright spaces where we join up the dots looking at stars like we do in the West. So we look at cartography and we look at globes in the second week. Then as we move into the third week, we actually start to deal with timekeeping and the sky. Calendars, lunar, solar, timekeeping, complex subject. Here we'll actually talk about astrolabs, and we'll give you an opportunity to actually build your own astrolabe if you want to. That information's up here on Moodle, and how this instrument works and the cultural implications of the astrolabe, the time finder rather than timekeeper. We can get into sunbeaming and sundials. This is a pocket sundial in the days before wristwatches, obviously, that sort of thing. And then simply simple instruments like this. This is another time-finding instrument of just looking at shadow casting. So we start to look at that and comparing the solar and lunar calendars together. An immense subject. We're just giving you an overview, letting you be introduced to the breadth of reading you can engage with and the sort of literature that's available, so that you can explore it further for the research work for your assignments, which I'll talk about shortly as we get there. The fourth week deals with sky mythology, and this is really dipping into ethno-astronomy, the myths and stories that different cultures place in the sky, why they place them in the sky, what some of those stories are, what is the purpose of this, what role does this mythology play, and what impact does that have on the different cultures that have placed that there. Once again, a very large subject, and we'll be unpacking that and looking at different stories and myths, but also the role of this. It's really touches deeply into ethno-astronomy in these parts. Then we change gears by week 5 and we move into the sky and architecture, so three-dimensional objects, whether that's sculpture, whether it's buildings. So we engage with that and the many examples from the ancient world as well as in the medieval and also in the contemporary world, how we will build something to engage with the sky and the landscape in a particular way. So that's the focus of week 5. And week 6, just scrolling down to it here, is looking at the sky as represented in two-dimensional objects now, art and iconography. Now the sky in art is another extremely large subject, and what we'll do is we'll just give you some examples here and talking about how the artist is seeing that and what they are wanting us to see and what it means to see it that way and why they see it that way, and indeed how you could, if you wanted to, represent the sky in art in your own way. And in this way we'll look at ceilings, and indeed we are going to focus a lot more on ceilings and stained glass and floors there rather than mosaic domes, etc., of the 3D art of the week before. Having established that, and that's by no means that will be totally covering the whole subject, we'll be introducing you to the subject. We'll also look at the sky in literature, which is everything from poetry to songs, can touch a little bit into music, but plays, novels, and film, of course, will fit into here. So how do we portray that? How does the sky impact on culture within the literature of a culture? And finally, the final week is our desire as humanities to go into space. The space race, the whole desire to reach up for space, the whole sense of exploring this sphere and the desire to engage with it. And we'll also look at why we have that as a passion and our desire to actually think that we have come from space. And we'll look at some of those stories of popular beliefs of that we are the product of man from space, etc. So we'll cover this whole sense of our desire to go into space, tracing it from the Egyptian early desires of the ascent into the stars, moving through to the contemporary travelling to the moon and Apollo 11, etc. So we'll look at that as well. So these are the 8 weeks, but what's the other thing to talk about very briefly, I'll scroll back up, is that the assignments in this module are a little bit different because the whole module is different. We're trying to embrace a visual, artistic, a literature, instrument-based, cartography-orientated view of the impact of the sky and culture. And if I just scroll up here to looking at the assignments, there are 2 assignments that are in this module, and the first one is a 2,000-word paper on any 2 items in art, literature, film, in objects, etc. Any 2 items which are associated with the sky, which can be, which you can use to compare and contrast and draw on the relevant literature to understand those 2 objects and place them into context and how they are representing the sky in some way. So that gives you a tremendous amount of options there to explore. And to help you decide that, you'll be bouncing ideas off the tutors and exploring different options in that area. The other major assignment that you submit for this module, that's a 3,000-word paper, is actually what we call a sky journal. And this is very much a personal decision on your part. It's a journal you undertake to maintain while watching the sky for a month or so. And it should contain phenomenology, images, drawings, photographs, movies, films. If you can't see the sky, then it should be in your engagement with some art in some way over the course of a month or so. But it really is about engaging with the sky and opening yourself up to the sky and looking at it and recording something about that sky, whether it's stars, whether it's sunrise, whether it's cloud movement, whether it's how the way birds use the sky. It's very, very broad. And to help you with this, we've put a lot of resources up under Sky Journal resources. Things like how the celestial sphere moves, an important one because that can teach you what you're looking at when you're looking at the sky. A lot of links here on photographing the sky and different ways if you wanted to photograph the sky. There's also information here on how to do sky watching, and additionally notes on just like about 50 different choices or ideas that you could watch in the sky. So there's a great deal of resources here that you can explore. You will find these extremely useful and thought-provoking. Now, all of these, fortunately the module happens over the summer, at least for the Northern Hemisphere, and all of these assignments come in once you've done the 8 weeks in various ways. You'll see the timetable. Now, what you're seeing on the Moodle page in this video will change. Moodle is an organic platform, and indeed this is Moodle 1, and by next year we'll be actually working with Moodle 2, and there'll be constantly growing resources here. But this Moodle page, the Moodle page for the module, is a key place of information and resources. And the other thing we're trying with this module is that we are actually putting a discussion in Facebook. We've opened up a special secret group in Facebook, which is just for the people in this module, the students on this module, where you can put images and ideas and thoughts, and then we can contribute and give you our ideas and thoughts. And this is the place where you help to create your ideas for your essay and also for your Sky Journal. This is already, we're only just started teaching this module now, and it's already a thriving, booming, dynamic place where there's a lot of activity, and it's becoming known as the Sky Room, and it's a very exciting new addition, a place for conversations and images and inspiration linked with the module. So this has been just a very brief overview to the module. The module, by the end of the module, you'll have a much deeper knowledge of the sky, cartography, constellations, instruments to do with the sky, cultural impact of the sky as well in film, art, space race. And by your own decisions on the precise things that you do your Sky Journal on and how you do your 2,000-word paper, you will have developed a particular interest and line with the sky which you can pursue. So welcome to this module, and I hope that you are going to enjoy it as much as the tutors enjoy teaching it.